Today you join me in the Lee Valley. I'm on the Abbots complex and I'm about to be fishing a lake called Banjo. I'm going to run through a few things I do towards the back end of winter that hopefully you can take away and use in your own fishing throughout the year. Right, well I've selected my swim. I've come into what is swim 7. It offers me a lot of opportunities in here. The lake itself is kind of broken up into 2 parts. There's a slightly bigger bowl that end, and then it moves down through a channel area and then opens up again. And I'm kind of in a really good ambush point now. There's a lovely snag just off to my right there. And there's lots of other options with bushes and snags opposite as well. So yeah, it gives me a lot to go at as well as a bit of open water. So that said, let's get the rods out. Right, so the rods are out. So I'm just going to talk to you about where I've actually positioned the baits and why I've positioned them there. So the lake itself is quite long and narrow, tapers off in the middle. There's a lovely set of snags just after it starts opening out into this body of water off to my right. And the far side itself has got various features, you know, snags, branches down, etc. in the water. And because there's no swims on the other side, the fish tend to patrol that bank. So they're obviously great ambush points, especially as it's narrowing off there. And like I say, there's a great hole in there in front of me. So because I'm snag fishing, I need to be set up correctly. I don't want to lose a rod. I don't want to give fish line. So this is how I go about doing it. One, I fish with snag ears on the alarms. As you can see, I'm using 4 stay stands, so the rods are completely set up independently. So I'm not going to get any twist if I put one stay stand in a buzz bar, etc. The butt rings are behind the alarms. The rods are locked in the back with rod lock grips. The free spools aren't engaged, obviously, and the clutches are done up tight, so they can't. Any fish that picks up that lead can't take any line. Okay, so that's the hardware that I'm using. I'm just going to talk to you about the line. Now, a real favourite of mine, the 19-pound Trans-Khaki Illusion fluorocarbon. Fantastic line. Now, great for small water fishing. Obviously, it has got its drawbacks. It's not the best casting line in the world. But any of these small venues, there's so many benefits to it. One, I can snag fish with it straight away. It's got far less stretch than mono. It's harder than mono. I can fish it with a tight line, and because of its trans-khaki colour, you can't see it up in the water, which is another advantage. But also, because there's very little stretch in it, the bite indication is incredible. So, as is braid, and a lot of people would go braid if they're fishing snags, etc. But there's just for me, there's no giving braid. I say, so I try and avoid it if I can, and this for me is the next best option, especially when you're only fishing 30 odd yards like I am now. So yeah, that's the reason I choose that. But also it's great as well with even if you want fishing the snags, I can fish it slack and it'll sink like a stone. Like I said, I can fish it tight and the bite indication's incredible. So many advantages over a normal mono for me, so that's why I choose that. With the rods in the water and the hardware clearly secure, hopefully it won't be too long. Well, the bite has come. Yeah, fishing locked up tight over to that far side. It's been a little bit brutal getting it in, and I've already got it pretty close in. It's a case of no mercy when it's like that. Even though I've eased off now, it's not doing a great deal. But it's just lovely to get a bite, especially this time of year. It's livening up a little bit now, so hopefully it's a little bit better than I thought. came away from that snag so easy. I was even wondering if it even was a carp, to be honest. I can see a biggish shape down there, so let's have a look. Yeah, he's lighting right up. It's weird, it almost like feels like he's given up and then he does that. That's how you do it. That's how you do it, mate. Let them swim into the net. It had enough time out there. Lovely little fish. Yeah, pleased with that. It's nice to be off the mark. Hopefully there's one or two more out there, but one or two bigger ones would be even better. But it's a start. What a lovely little fish that is. A right little cracker. A real pleasure to catch on a bleak February day. So there you go, rewards for my efforts. Not the biggest carp in the world, but what a little stunner. And an absolute pleasure to catch on like a horrible, dreary February day. So, well pleased with him. Right, before I get the rig back out, I'm just going to talk you through it, okay? And I'm going to have to make some subtle changes to it very shortly. And the reason for that is we're going into darkness very soon, the light's fading, and there's crayfish in here, and they'll become more active, certainly during the night. And one thing I want to make sure is that I am fishing during the hours of darkness, and I have, you know, that I've got a bait on my rig. So the rig I just caught the fish on was made up of some Cavatex soft, lump of putty with a hook was actually stripped back, and a tungsten flipper. Okay, it's set up German style, so small swivel on there, a little mainline pineapple pop up, and a rubber magnet on the top. Okay, so that's the rig that I just caught the fish on. So the subtle changes I'm going to have to make, I've gone over to a slightly stiffer hook length material. Again, if they're out there and they're moving your rig around, I don't want it to get too tangled or tangled at all. Where I would have the putty, the crayfish love tungsten, so I've had to remove that, and I've gone over to a quick change pop-up weight. And the flipper is just a standard one. A bait, two grains of rubber, plus a little maggot topper on there. So technically the same rig, but with some very subtle changes to combat the crayfish. That's on sale already, down here. Oh, it's pinging on something. So I've got to keep him moving. Right. See him over the back? Ah, oh, I'm in trouble here, mate. I'm going to have to try and get down the bank. Well, there you go, second one of the session. A little bit bigger than the last one, another absolute cracker, lovely little fish. You would have seen some of the fight on it, but unfortunately, this one managed to find itself around a tree branch down my own margin, so I had no problem getting away from the snags whatsoever. But it kited to the right, got itself around a branch. Now, rather than panic and try and play it back through, I thought the best bet would be to hook the line from the other side. At the end of the day, fishing safety is paramount, you know, and I didn't want to drag it into the branch, so I thought it'd be best to catch the line from the other side, and then that way net it. So I needed Kieran's assistance to do that, so I had to pull him away from the camera, hence the reason you didn't see all the fight. But yeah, there you go, like I say, safety first on that one. Well, we're getting close to 8 o'clock now. You've obviously just seen that I've had a fish. Rods have probably been back out the rubber baits on maybe 2 hours, probably not even that. So obviously I'm pleased I've got one so early, so it's looking very promising for the night ahead. The temperature's really dropped now, to the extent that the mat started to freeze up. But that said, there's obviously fish in the area, so I think there's a really good chance of nicking one for the night, if not, you know, sometime early in the morning. Fingers crossed, yeah, looking forward to the night ahead. Well, unfortunately, it was a quiet night last night. Not a real surprise, really. I went into tonight very confident, but the temperature absolutely plummeted and it was colder than I was expecting. So whether that's put the fish off or not, I don't know. But anyway, the rods are still fishing. I'm going to look at freshening them up soon. I'm also considering moving my right-hand rod, purely because both the bites have come on the left hand. So I'm considering leapfrogging it over. There's a nice little area down to the left, so looks like it might be good for a bite. So rather than keep it there, and they're both relatively close at the moment, there'll be a little bit more spread, plus the area actually looks nice. It looks a lot easier to land fish from, so that's the game plan. So I'll keep you updated as the day goes on. Right, so let's take the opportunity to have a look at the mix I'm using and how I'm actually applying it. So I am smalling bait out, but I'm introducing really small amounts, to be honest. The bait I'm using, which I'll run through in a minute, there's not a lot of food source in it. Again, because of the time of year, I don't want to feed them, I just want to attract them more than anything. I'm using the tiny little mini smom that we do. And the reason for that is, one, I can introduce little tiny parcels. So 3 of these is probably the equivalent to 1 big spom. So rather than have, if the cast isn't exactly spot on, there'll be 3 little patches. The other thing with this is it's obviously only very small, doesn't make much of a splash, and I'm trying to keep disturbance to a minimum. I don't want them fish to move off, and I don't want them to back away into snags. So that for me is absolutely perfect for applying a small amount of bait. The bait itself, on the mix, there's a lot of various things in here. Again, I'm not looking to feed them, so I'm trying to make it as attractive as possible. But there is food source in there, obviously. There's hemp, corn. I've got crushed cell boilie in there, crushed IB boilies in there. I've also got a bit of the stick mix, some liquidised bread, and also I've topped it off with a little bit of rock salt. I just like to add a bit of rock salt into my bait these days. It certainly doesn't do any harm, and I do think it is beneficial most of the time. So that's what I'm applying. As you can see, 3 of those out there is a very small amount of bait. So with the amount of bait I'm using, I'm just trying to nick 1 bite at a time. I'm not trying to get loads of fish feed or anything like that, because they're just not going to this time of year in these conditions. So for me, that's perfect. That's enough to get a bite. So 3 of those around the swim, spot on. I'm just going to talk you through the rig I'm actually using. It's my version of a German rig. It's very simple to tie, and I'm going to talk you through it now. Okay, I'm going to start off with taking a 25-pound Camotex semi-stiff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our puller tool and strip off about 3 inches of coating. Now we're going to pull off about roughly another 10 inches of that. Cut that with the old scissors. Now we're going to attach the hook. And we're going to do this with a knotless knot. The hook itself is a size 6 wide gape long shank. Now the amount of turns isn't that important, as long as you're past at least 7 turns, I would say. What I do is I'll wrap it up as far as it needs to be, so I've got about ½ inch of separation. Okay, pass it back through, which completes your knotless knot, like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of our flippers. This is a size 1 to 5. Thread that up the hook length. Slide that onto the hook and over the knot. Now that's on there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that tag end off. There we go. So we're at that stage now. So we've got a piece of movement in there. The flipper's attached. Next item to go on is a micro hook ring swivel. You're going to slide this on obviously through the ring, leaving the swivel part exposed like so. So we need to thread a hook bead on. Now, I normally find this easier if you thread it on narrow. It's easier to find the hole on the narrow end. I just prefer it that way round as well. So that's positioned just opposite the barb of the hook. So we now have our swivel to position our bait onto. Right, so I'm going to strip the last section of the hook length off where I'll create the loop. Now the rig's relatively short, so I'm going to strip it from about 6 inches back and then tie the loop so it'll be just over 6 inches in total length. So again, using the puller tool, strip that away, like so. Then I'm going to form the loop just above where the coating's been removed, like so. Then I always use a baiting needle to do a gate latch needle. It's absolutely perfect. Fold it over, spin it, grab the loop, hook it, drag it through. So simple doing it that way, so much easier. Wet the knot off. Then I'm just going to tighten it up using the puller tool so the loop's over the domed pointed end. As you can see, that knot is now really secure. And with that material stripped away, the knot's much smaller as well. So it makes it easy to get an anti-tangle sleeve on and off. So the anti-tangle sleeve again, just use gate latch needle to do this. Pass it down, hook under the loop. Right, so the next thing we need to do is add the hook bait. So I'm going to take a piece of floss, some flossing baits onto the swivel. Take a link for that. Thread that through the swivel. Right, so my hook bait here is just going to be 2 bits of rubber Kong. Fold those on, slide it down, position it over the swivel when I push it right onto the barrel. Now the last bit's a little bit fiddly, but I like to do it. It just secures it so well. So as I said, I've been using the fake maggot, so I'm tying an overhand knot here, position it over the middle of the maggot, pull down on it. Now I'll pull this quite tight, then I'll just put in 3 or another 2 little overhand knots, just hold in position. So the reason I do this is it does secure it so well, rather than use a stop etc at the top of it. And I'll just literally give them a blast with a lighter, and that's the hook bait secured. So the last thing to do is we're going to add a lump of putty, either a lump of putty or a quick change weight. That's secured just back where the break is in the hook length material, so where the coating technically starts. And there we go, finished rig. All I'll do now is give that a steam, make it nice and straight, and that's ready to cast out into the pond. Well, that's it, we come to the end of the session now. Nothing today. Fortunately, we nicked a couple out yesterday, so a couple of real nice looking fish. Not the biggest in the pond by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, they were a couple of nice fish in tough conditions, so pleased with that. Hopefully, there's 1 or 2 things you might be able to pick up from this session and take away and use in your own fishing. If you did like this video, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you've got any tips yourself about combat and crayfish, please put them in the comments below.